This is Tyler O'Neill, senior editor at the Daily Signal. I'm honored to be joined by Senator Ted Cruz.
Tyler, great to be with you.
The one, the only. So you just got done interviewing our Attorney General, Pam Bondi. So glad to have her there after the travesty that Merrick Garland was. What was the thing that stood out to you from that interview that you just had with her?
Well, look, Pam is doing a terrific job as Attorney General. She's been AG for 15 days. And we did, as you know, I do a podcast every week, Verdict with Ted Cruz, and we do it 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we've done it now several years in a row here at CPAC and done it on stage. And so today what we did is we did the Verdict podcast, but had Pam as our guest. And so we interviewed her and asked her, all right, first 15 days, what has been accomplished, what needs to be done? And I'll tell you, she is very focused on, number one, keeping us safe, putting murderers and rapists and child molesters and gang members and terrorists, putting them in jail, securing the border, going after the cartels, going after the people who are threatening our safety. And she is also laser focused on ending the politicization and weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI. Both of those are desperately, desperately needed.
Well, we saw some of the same groups that urged Biden to open the border in the first place are now filing lawsuits to block Trump's moves in court. I love the way Pam responded to that question because she said, we're winning, and that's all she said.
Yeah.
But is there more that needs to be said on that front?
Well, listen, the entire 4 years of Trump's presidency, the left is going to wage lawfare against him. You're going to have Democrat attorneys general who are going to sue the federal government over and over and over again. You're going to have left-wing activists paid for by George Soros, paid for by left-wing billionaires that are just going to file relentless lawsuits, and they're going to go seek out friendly judges. They're going to file these cases in blue states. They're going to go out and seek left-wing radical judges, and that means the Department of Justice is going to be defending the president day in and day out, and she's right. Right now, they are winning these cases all over the place.
Do you think the Supreme Court needs to make a ruling to prevent these activist judges from issuing these nationwide injunctions? I mean,
look, the issue of nationwide injunctions is actually hotly contested in the law, and you see a single district judge that tries to govern the entire country. And the basic principle is that a judge has the authority to resolve the case in controversy in front of him between the litigants. But the authority of one district judge to issue a nationwide injunction is hotly contested, and I think it's something that Congress ought to address as well. Whether the Supreme Court reins it in or not, I don't know. At a minimum, where you're going to see these cases where you do get a bad injunction, a lawless injunction, you're going to see the Department of Justice appealing those cases, and you're going to see the cases overturned either in the courts of appeal or ultimately, I think, in the U.S. Supreme Court.
So right now, DOJ is going from agency to agency to agency. It's beautiful. It's glorious. But in order to have lasting change, you and I know reconciliation is key. How can the Senate help DOJ to actually, solidify some of these changes to the federal bureaucracy?
So we've got to get that done. The Senate is right now working on budget reconciliation. In fact, I'm going to leave here in about a half hour and go to the Senate floor, and we're expecting to be on the Senate floor all night tonight. So the first step of budget reconciliation is something that's called vote-a-rama, which is under the statute that allows you to circumvent the filibuster. And the reason reconciliation matters, people at home may be saying, what is this thing?
Word? Yeah.
Look, in the Senate, the filibuster rule means you ordinarily need 60 votes to move to major legislation. We only have 53 Republicans, so if you need 60 votes, you need 7 Democrats. Democrats are not going to go along with most of what we want to do. And budget reconciliation is a special statutory path that you can enact legislation with just 50 votes, that you don't need 7 Democrats. We're doing budget reconciliation right now. The first step, as I said, is what's called vote-a-rama. Under the statute, there can be unlimited amendments. So the Democrats tonight, we'll probably vote on 30, 40, 50 amendments. We could be there. I've been there till 5 in the morning. I've been there sometimes all night and all day the next day voting on amendments. And much of what we'll see tonight will be Democrats just playing politics, trying to put amendments that they think are bad political votes to force Republicans to cast votes. And that's fine. They'll play their games and then they'll lose, and then we'll move to the next stage. In the Senate, we're focused first on securing the border, on rebuilding the military, and on unleashing energy.
Right.
And then more broadly, we need to extend the Trump tax cuts and make them bigger and make them bolder. We're going to get all that done because we got to get it done. As part of that, I think it is critical that we put into law the reduced spending, and DOJ is doing a great job of this. As they find waste, fraud, and abuse, we need to go and codify cutting that stuff out. We need to put it into federal law, and I think reconciliation provides the ideal avenue to do so.
So there's this thing called public sector unions.
Yes.
Even
I've heard of
FDR
them.
thought they shouldn't exist. Now they're filing lawsuits
Of
to
course.
stop Trump,
Yes.
this deep state effort. They can, federal bureaucrats, get money from the taxpayer for time working for
Yep.
these unions in something called official time. There have been talks about banning official time, but I think it might be easier to tax official time at a rate of, say, 100%, to recoup that money to the taxpayer in reconciliation. That's something you don't need
Interesting.
a filibuster breaking majority. What do you think of that idea?
I think that's an interesting idea. There's no doubt we are going to need to consider a lot of ideas that are fundamentally transformational, because we've got an opportunity. Look, you look at the election in November. This was a mandate. The American people overwhelmingly reelected President Trump. They gave us a Republican Senate, a Republican House. We have an historic opportunity right now. We can't miss the moment. And what I am urging my colleagues is we got to roll up our sleeves and get to work delivering on our promises. I think we're going to do exactly that.
So we've seen in an organization, you and I have spoken a great deal about, the Southern Poverty Law Center, have a lot of influence in the Biden administration. Are there things that Congress can do? Are there ways that we can watch for the influence of these nefarious groups, cutting them off from USAID perhaps? There's the Tides Foundation funded them, and USAID funded Tides. But, how do we respond to this massive NGO apparatus that the left has?
Look, the simplest principle in terms of how you catch mobsters, how you catch criminals, is follow the money. And we need to follow the money. That means we need to follow the money behind the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses and who's funding that. That means we need to follow the money that is flowing to all these left-wing activist groups. Politicization and weaponization, it has lots of different aspects of it. One aspect of the politicization and weaponization of government under the Democrats was indicting and prosecuting Donald Trump, was targeting pro-life activists, was targeting faithful Catholics, was targeting parents who speak up at school boards. That's one aspect of weaponization. Another aspect of politicization and weaponization is turning a blind eye to the illegal conduct of your friends and allies. And this administration did that a lot, including the cartels and the human traffickers who flourished, and letting criminals go, which they did for 4 years. But yet another aspect of politicization is sending cash to your political allies. And if you look at one of the things Elon is uncovering is everything the Biden administration did was politicized, and they were shoveling millions and billions of dollars to left-wing groups. We need to root all of that out. I'm really grateful Elon's putting the energy in to finding that, because the relentlessness, every agency, every program, it was accepted wisdom in the Biden administration. It's all about partisan politics and shovel the money. As they said at the EPA, they were throwing gold bars out the window.
Yeah. I can't get over that. Like some of these things, DOJ finding trillions of dollars without the full marking for the budget.
You talked about the public employee unions. One of the things Joe Biden did on the way out, and I got to say, there's never been a president after his party is defeated who has behaved more petulantly and with more contempt for democracy and the voters than Joe Biden did. He spent his last 2 months as president doing everything he could to try to frustrate Donald Trump and the will of the voters. And one of the examples was signing agreements with federal employee unions saying they don't have to go into the office to work. You look at a typical federal office building, and under Biden, 5 to 8% of the workers were coming in. Wow. These office buildings are empty. And by the way, these federal workers believe they have an entitlement to, quote, work at home. Now, for those not watching, I put that in air quotes because there's a question how much they're working at all. One of the things President Trump is doing is saying, if you want a job, get your butt to the office. That this is not a dial in from home and bunny slippers job. If you're doing something and it's important, show up and work. And by the way, in the private sector, everyone else in America has gone back to work. It's only the federal government employees that think COVID is still happening.
Well, and I think there are flexible arrangements, and then there's flexible arrangements. Like when you're talking about offices that you have to heat, the taxpayers pay for,
and over 90% of the people aren't there. I mean, that's not a mom who's working part time. I mean, there are arrangements you can do in limited circumstances, but when none of your employees come in, that's brazen, and that is what it was under the Democrats, and it's one of the important things the Trump administration is turning around now.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me, Senator. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Look, I think this was terrific. I just want to encourage everyone listen. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, Verdict with Ted Cruz, and it's an exciting time right now.
It really is. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.